if you're 8 to 10 right now, you could be on bumfuck nowhere, and you're gonna have players who will transfer to be a part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I told Gage this morning, like, not against going to another guild, but I ain't gonna go to that server for another 4 out of 10 guild, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, that was what I was talking about, because Caleb was saying, you know, they have tanks, they only really need DPS, and it's like, well, I'm open to, like, being a DPS as long as it's a DPS that's a tank off spec. Like, I would trial like that. But I'm not gonna give up my tank spot to go to a guild that's the same progression. I would, if I was doing that, it would be for like, you know, 6 to 8 out of 10, somewhere in that range. And I might not even make it, but I know that I don't even want to try to give up my tank spot unless it's for something like that.
I hope they just go so that it gives me an excuse to quit. Just fucking leave, Gage. Get the fuck out of here.
I applied to 2 guilds this morning.
So you can be sending them to the mall.
Elad's guild reached out to me, asked me to app.
How are they?
6.
How much do they raid?
2 nights a week. I have a lot of history with them too. I used to sell boosts with them even though I wasn't in their guild.
2 nights, you said?
Yeah.
Is it 4 hours?
Yeah. It's the same as us. They have a lot stricter rules on self responsibility. So like
if they're 4 hours each night, that's not the same as us. We're 3 hours.
Yeah, then it's 3. I think maybe
that's
not.
a big deal. They're probably not much better than we are if they're doing 4 hours each night, because that's 2 extra hours every week since the start.
They're a little bit better for sure.
But not
they
much.
They're not like leaps and bounds, no.
No.
I think they're better because of their requirements.
Yep.
So you have to have 4 226 chests a week, and they make sure you get 1 from raid.
Whereas in our guild, you just need a 200. 1 200 is okay.
Shit, no, you just shoved raid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man, yeah.
But God fucking help you if you expect that warlock to summon you.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference is that they have like hefty personal responsibility requirements. Plus, they have like 20 or so bench guys that are just hoping to get in, like at all times. So
fucking extra thirsty, isn't it?
Well, it's just like they've never missed CE, so they have a lot of apps like that. But the biggest thing with that is like Elad has been there for 2 X packs now, and he sits like half the fights because he plays rogue, and that's just something that they're like, dude. I mean, you don't play Boomkin or whatever, so
I mean,
you got to deal with it.
Y'all still doing our videos?
We actually just started when we're about to queue our first one.
Beware.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, and I know I've said this a few times, but I feel like Egg cares about the shit that doesn't fucking matter. Like, oh god, we had to summon someone and we're 10 minutes late. Like, I get it, he's 10 minutes late, but just summon them, let's move on. Same with, like, our health pots a big deal. They are, for sure.
Beware.
But, like...
But choosing to focus and weigh that as heavily as he did versus other stuff that is clearly contributing is insane. I 1000% agree.
Yeah. Like, guess what? If that person maybe would have had 2 more pieces of 226 gear, maybe they would do a little more damage and not take as much damage. Maybe the fights would go faster. Maybe they'd have more health.
I mean, I have no issue using my consumables when they need to be used. I don't want to be having to use consumables just to make sure it shows up on the logs that I use to healing pot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I need it, I use it. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah, I'd feel the same way. Like, I definitely... There's times where I hold mine and then I suddenly die. And then I know he's like, well, why don't you use your health pot? Because I was at 40% health. Like, I shouldn't, like, suddenly just die because I didn't get any healing for 10 seconds.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Let's not talk about the healers now.
I'm not ripping on the healers. Like, everyone's busy. Everyone's watching 8 million things. Like, it's just like, you know, in that moment, you're making a decision. And I'm not, like, I personally try not to use a health pot the first 50% of the fight. Like, to me, that's a waste.
It is. I agree. I don't know. Normally try to do the same, but I had to like loosen my personal restrictions on that because it's just been so rough. But I do the same thing with turtle. Like, I am very like greedy with
Stingy?
my turtle because it's a wait. If I have to use turtle in the first of a fight to avoid dying to unavoidable damage, like that is a total piss it up the wall waste. You know what I mean?
Yep. And the fight's probably going to fail somewhere else anyways then at that point.
I want to be saving that for situations where I have no choice. I'm going to die. I need to use it. If you waste it for just something stupid, it sucks.
Then again, I
Nope.
don't want to be involved in the decision making in a guild in any capacity.
Oh, me either.
I try not to. I try not to be too hard on the guys that have to decide whether they're going to cut people for not having 226s every week. I think that's their hard decision to make, but they should be willing to make those decisions.
Yeah, it takes a special type of person to want to be in a role like that for sure.
Well, we talked about it a little bit this morning. Like, I think honestly, I think the guild's moving in the right direction. It's the direction that we should have been moving from day one of this expansion. But what sucks is now we're at the point that the next people on the chopping block are an officer and her husband. Like, and don't get me wrong, Ayla's a great person. She tries really, really hard. She does. But, like, if you have watched the Stone Generals fight, like...
I haven't watched it, but I can tell you she can't even do it on heroic. So.
Well, yeah, so on... so essentially you play, like, fuck edge games to control where everyone gets knocked, and you stand in a corner, and, like, it's... There's constantly like a pushing ability that's like moving you. Like if you can't, like if you die during Shriekwing or Sledge Fist because you're like, oh, I was looking at raid frames and casting a heal, like, sorry, like you're dead at generals, plain and simple. And then Mythic Sledge Fist, you're chained 24/7. You are attached to someone the entire fight.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely echo what you just said about. Feels like we're moving in the right direction. It's just kind of. I wish he would have like got this act together a month ago, type of thing.
I don't think we're off time too much. I know we're off time, but I don't think we're off time.
So-
Definitely.
Where I time myself, do you remember Tyler Bax?
Yeah.
He's 6 of 10. We should be 6 of 10. He is not a good player. Granted, his logs are like he is honestly in a guild that is carrying him 6 of 10. His average parse.
Yeah,
is
but
like
Mythic
3.
is. I mean, they have a lot of
He's
personal
not-
responsibility.
He's not in Mythic anymore.
He's not.
No, he's swapped to late night.
No. I don't
What
know
are
anything
we,
about
Are we
him.
4 right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that we should. What would 6 be? Artificer and.
Council
Council.
or Council and Zymok.
No, or it would be a 6 would be Nerva and Zamok.
I mean, you can pick where you go, I guess, can't you?
Yeah, but Council is like the
Hard,
hardest
yeah.
boss pre like like it
Gotcha.
goes in like it'd be dumb to go.
Yeah, that's
I
what
think-
Elad's guild's on, and they're 6 of.
I think we should. I think a realistic spot for this guild is we should be 5.
Yeah, that's what.
And
I
we
said.
should have been 5, like, not this week, like maybe a week or even 2 weeks ago. So, like, I feel like we're a whole boss plus half a month behind.
Well,
Yeah.
what happens when people aren't required to get gear?
Oh, 1000%.
Used
That's
to be
not-
you could just get it from the raid easily.
I've never seen. Well, yeah, that's true too. I've just never seen a group of people that either doesn't want to play or doesn't want to better themselves and not waste the rest of the raid team's time. I've just never seen
I
it
mean, I
before.
think the easiest thing to see, to me, like one of the easiest takeaways is like you go to our Raider IO page and you look at the roster for Raider IO. Like, all of us have alts that are way higher than people's main like raid team.
But like I said, I mean, you got a situation where we used to be able to just raid and they got the gear, and they benefited from guys that, like you're talking about, that would get it from Mythic Plus because a bunch of gear drops, and a bunch of guys have gear from Mythic Plus. They give their gear to the people that need it because they need it, because they don't do shit.
Well, we had like so Krill, myself, Gage, like all of us. That's exactly what happened at the start of this expansion. Like we came into heroic with pretty decent gear, we found ourselves, you know, either losing minor upgrades or giving away or like pieces to people.
I just want to put something into perspective for you all.
Oh boy.
You remember Moose? The Ret Paladin that we
Yeah, I
had?
know. His guild's just
Yeah.
as far along as ours is.
His guild actually is further along because they killed Sun King before us. So just think about that. Somebody that was so bad that we had to kick them out of the group because they were a bad trial and we're going to make a raid spot is ahead of us on progression.
Yep, and I mean, I did a few keys with him, and he was not great.
But that's, I mean, that's like what I was saying with Tyler. Like, Guam can attest to it. Tyler is not a good player. Like, he's not bad, he's not great, but he's 6 of 10 mythic right now.
Hey, I'll hop over this Discord with these guys.
Later, dude.
I thought they were in one, but I guess they had somebody drop. Touch on a little bit.
Later.
I think we have potential to catch up. I really do. The thing that's going to stop us from catching up is, like, last night it seemed like Ayla, just when I was hearing her talk, was having a stressful bad night. And anytime Ayla has, like, a bad day with family and the kids, it bleeds over into raid, and her and Donnie just both have shit attitudes and are really bad that night.
I mean, when Donnie last night was joking and flaming people about he shouldn't be beating anyone on DPS when he's 212 level, like, that's just enough for me right there. Like, you are a fucking idiot if you're only 212.
Well, I mean, does he realize that he's 212 because myself, Raz, Particle, and Xe fed him loot from Heroic and Mythic for 4 weeks? Like, any roll that any of us could have rolled went to him.
And he doesn't, like, he does 0. I mean, I'm 220, and I have, aside from my trinket, my Dreadfire Vessel trinket that I got from my vault, I have 1 piece of raid armor on, and it's 213, and it fucking sucks, and I'm going to replace it as soon as humanly possible.
Yep.
Why does
Everything else is
Ayla
stuff.
play Holy instead of Disc? Is there a reason?
Because she can't play anything else.
The power you share.
Like, that's why I laugh at her on her shaman when they're like, oh, we want to dealer her shaman because it's the meta play. I don't know if you were... Yeah, you weren't there for that heroic re-clear. I ended up having to heal on my Resto Druid. I would heal her shaman by a long shot, and I'm not a healer. I don't know how to manage mana or manage healing cooldowns. Like...
So here's my prediction: is I think we have good momentum right now,
Beware.
and I think the last 2 weeks of raid have been very good for our standards. But what's going to happen is, yes, I 100% think we're going to catch up a bit, but we are just going to get hard walled on these difficult bosses because people can't even do the easy bosses
Yeah.
well.
We'll either get hard-walled
Beware.
Sledge Fist, or Generals. But if we get stuck at Generals, I mean, to be fair,
Most
all
people-
really, really good guilds are getting stuck at Generals. Because it's not just a hard fight, it's a hard, broken fight. Like, you can be 7 minutes into a 12-minute boss fight, and then the ads just bug in the air, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, we still have Sledge Fist chains issues in
I don't know.
heroic.
Yep.
So
No, I agree. I think. Yeah, I agree with that prediction. I think we'll carry along. We'll get to either 6 to 10 if we're lucky, maybe 7 to 10, and then our hard wall is going to be associated with the Ayla and Donnie issue.
I mean, there's a few more to it, but yes.
I mean,
Javi is not good.
Yep. Honestly, I think you'll find Javi on the bench pretty soon.
What's going on with him?
Rightfully.
Oh, Boomkin OP.
I mean, he doesn't do
Boomkin
good
is the-
damage,
He should be top of the meters in every single fight, not number 8 or 9.
Oh.
and his mechanical play is very, very poor. I had to message Jake when we were like still progging on Hungering Destroyer, and told him I think my quote was, "I am literally fucking fed up with Javi running his blue circle thing. Can't remember what it's called." Over my face when
Yes.
I'm in position.
Volatile
He was
ejection.
literally dashing or charging with the cat form, and like I was against the wall, and he would fucking run it right over top of me
Oh,
every
it's
time.
sponge.
Yeah.
And I was having to use my health stone and health pot to cover what he was doing to me, and it was such a waste. And I was getting so fucking tilted.
I'm having fun with their guild because I haven't ever gotten to raid before.
Beware.
Just because of my schedule.
Yeah.
So-
I think
so
the
it's all
raid is a
plus
lot of
for
good
me.
people. Like, and I enjoy it. And like with me swapping to like Boomkin, like Greg wants me to do Boomkin for our Mythic Plus stuff now. Like, he's 216, like 2 item levels behind my fucking Death Knight. I would love to give up the Death Knight and raid.
Beware.
I mean, Stravinsky has already set the precedence for you to do whatever you want. So if you want to do it, do it. And don't give Egg a choice. And
Yeah, why is
say,
he
"Here's
Frost?
why."
I was curious about that.
Because
What
he's a
happened?
fucking idiot. He didn't ask anyone or anything. He literally just swapped to Frost on his own accord.
So prior to that event, I can understand both sides. I can understand why he didn't want you to swap, because DK does do very strong damage, and I mean it made sense. But he let the precedence be set when he allowed Stravinsky to get away with that. So do whatever the fuck you want now.
That's so strange. I don't understand why he's playing Frost.
Because he doesn't know how to play fire. I'll give you a quick insight. When he blinks or shimmers, he is mouse clicking and then keyboard turning. So he clicks his shimmer ability and then keyboard turns.
True.
How many CEs does this guild have?
I think only 1 or 2, not a lot.
He also clicks his alter time, is it called?
Yep.
And I'm not even convinced he has time warp on his powers. There's a few things. Oh, he clicks combust too. Or last time I watched him, he was playing fire and he clicked combust. There's quite a few things he clicked. I think he only had like 1 to 4 bound.
That's really strange.
And everyone's like, well, he does good, and it's like,
Yeah, he plays a mage.
Struggle to
Probably
understand
chat.
that because like Druid has so many bindings.
Yeah, the only thing that has more bindings than my druid is my shaman.
Yeah. I mean, I know like you make the case for Hobby not using his bindings because it's Boomkin, so it's a little simpler, but
I don't know why. The only reason we know what he does, Stravinsky does, is because we watch his stream. Did you apply to guilds on your Boomkin or on your DK?
I can't. There's no way I can apply to the guilds that I applied to on my Boomkin. I don't have the logs to support it. And the thing is, like, both the guilds I applied to are 3-day-a-week guilds. I play like I told Rex this morning, I play those times anyways, so... like if I'm gonna play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and instead of doing RBGs with y'all on Thursday, like I'll just mythic raid. Because like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would play 3 nights a week too. I mean, I do anyway most of the time, but
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like Thursday night, like it's literally just Rex and I, because Gage, Greg, and them don't play Thursday night. And you're on sometimes Thursday night, and James is working, so.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not happy with the way rating is in WoW right now, like as a whole, not guild related, but it could be remedied a bit if it was a more performant atmosphere to raid in.
Beware.
Well, and like I do it like I told Greg and Gage, and I raid because like or play WoW in general because of like the social aspect. Like I just like hanging out with y'all. So
Beware.
you know, like,
Beware.
if this guild ever gets to the point that like shit really starts to bother me in raid, like it's getting close, like I'll just step away from raid and y'all can go do raid for a few hours. I'll do keys with you during the day if I can, and then Rex and I can go do arenas or RBGs. Like to be real honest, like the thing I want most in WoW right now is that gladiator mount. Like that mount I think is absolutely incredible.
Beware.
Yeah, I've just resigned myself to the fact that I don't want the pressure of trying to compete and perform in like a high-end guild. Even though I know I could, I don't want to. It's too stressful. So it's just like if Gage and those guys go to another guild, depending on where it's at, I would consider going socially, but I don't care if I'm on the roster. If that happens, I'll just like take a step back and just do keys and PvP.
Yeah. Well, and PvP is the cat's ass right now. Like the only thing you're gonna get from mythic rating, truthfully, is a transmog set and an achievement.
Yeah.
Which does, and the achievement this patch doesn't come with a title, and it doesn't come with a mount. So
So the cat's ass then.
yeah.
And the other thing too is like if they, I mean, anyone who's changed guilds knows that it's super hard to take a group of people, even a small group of people, to another guild. Like it just doesn't work. There's not enough roster spots. Everything around. And I don't want to compete with like say Gage or Greg if Greg had to go DPS for a spot, because I mean just class alone wise I'm gonna get it over them. So I don't want to be in that situation. I'd rather just sit out and let them do it.
I just want the guild to do well, because next patch it looks like we're getting tier sets back, and it's actually going to mean a good deal.
Yeah.
This guild's not gonna survive next tier.
Beware.
I think it has a chance to.
I don't. I think people jump ship as soon as this tier ends,
Well-
including the people in here.
Well, I was gonna say the people that'll jump ship first will be the people in here. It'll be me, you, Greg, Caleb, Gage.
The guild's dead when that happens.
Not dead.
We're on life support.
Beware.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have the roster or the progression to like bring in high value recruits, so they're not going to be able to replace us with people of equivalent skill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, everyone's always replaceable.
True. Learned that when applying to guilds started this expansion, because in BFA a lot of people were like, hey, come raid with us, but my schedule didn't work, and then they set their rosters, and so then I was like, hey, you said you wanted me to raid with you, and they're like, oh dude, we're full, man. Like that's when I learned, like, literally, as long as you're doing raiding, you can bring mythic raiding, you can bring in some talent.
Yep. There's
You
always
can.
someone
There's just not a
looking for
lot
their
of.
chance at something new.
There's just not a lot to attract to
Beware.
a guild like this.
But I mean, but you're still mythic rating. I mean, prime example, like you go back a year ago when Egg invited me to rewind, I had 0 mythic kills and just had to do the heroic logs, and they needed a monk and gave it a shot, and here we are.
Right, but would you still be here if Gage, Greg, and
Beware.
Caleb weren't here? Like, if you came by yourself, would you still be here? I don't think you would.
I didn't come to that guild with Greg, Caleb, and them. I came
No,
to the
but what I'm
guild with
saying
them.
is if there wasn't something tying you here, I don't think you would still be here.
Oh, like if I hadn't made friends with Greg
Right.
and them?
Yeah.
Beware.
No, I mean, it's hard to say.
I mean, their progression hasn't warranted a player as good as you are, as good as any of us are here. There has to be another factor to tie you because performance
Oh, yeah,
and
you're not
progression
wrong.
is not enough in this guild.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to see it fail enough on that. I plan on at least sticking out the tier, but we'll see what happens from then. We can like rally up and go 10 of 10. And sorry, that's me.
You think it fails if it goes like 8 of 10 though?
No.
I think it depends on if Greg, Gage, and Caleb leave or not, to be honest. I think that would be the deciding factor. Because if they
Well,
leave,
the thing is,
Ghost
I think-
probably leaves, I probably leave.
Well, the thing is, and Greg made that clear today, that he's not necessarily going to leave if Caleb leaves.
No, I know, I'm just saying I think that that's the scenario that would cause this guild not to go forward if they all left.
Yeah.
I don't know what the probability is of that at all. I think that that's the scenario that would cause this guild to.
I think the thing to keep in perspective is, like, there are guilds like Big Fat Boss that have gotten CE forever that are literally falling apart this expansion.
Yeah. That's Breach's guild, right?
Yes.
Or was.
Yeah.
Were they stuck somewhere?
Generals.
Yeah.
Well, they got 10 of 10. But they spent 4 weeks at generals to the point that everyone's like, we're over this. We're done. We don't like the fights. We don't like this raid. We don't like the way WoW is right now. Like, so they literally like stepped away. Like
Oh,
had-
so they didn't leave the guild and go find another one. They
yeah,
just
they all
stopped.
got CE together and they got everyone on the bench CE, and then they said, cool, we're done. We don't know.
It's
if we'll be back."
interesting though, because like, I mean, overwhelmingly the opinion is that Shadowlands is a very good expansion.
I mean, I think
Not
that
for raiding, but
I think that a lot of that sentiment comes because the thing freshest in your mind is BFA, and BFA was so bad that anything would look good right now.
I guess like I had a lot of fun in BFA and met some of my best buddies. So I mean, it's all relative, I guess. But I played WoW in BFA over other games, like over any other games really.
Yeah, I mean, the social aspect and like those factors are like a different conversation of like the state of the expansion.
Yeah.
And
But the way that itemization works now, not for raid, but just in general, it's so much better than BFA.
yeah, I think if Blizzard doesn't address this, and by this I mean like raid loot versus PvP loot versus like this whole fucking mess that's going on right now, if they don't address that, then people's sentiment about Shadowlands is going to start flipping.
Yeah.
So it's
Then
just
again,
early.
though, if you put a little effort in, it's not hard. I mean, I have a boomy set, I have a burst set, I have a crit set, and I have a mastery set.
Yeah, but
I only
it's
play
like-
one character, but
The thing about it is it's not, there's like a whole different level to it. It's like there's the level of I can't get gear, this fucking sucks, which is not true, which is what you're saying. But then there's like the reward factor of it, where it just doesn't feel rewarding to be doing content and doing stuff. That's kind of the issue, I think. Like I mean, I'm level 221, My gear is not like itemized perfectly because I have a bunch of versatility from PvP gear. But I have gear and my item level is high. It's just not rewarding to do anything. So that's what I don't like about it.
I don't know. To Ghost point, like WoW to me was always a PvP thing, and it's in a better place than it's ever been, really.
Yep, 100%. I agree with that. I'm sure the PvP community is very happy. I would be.
But raiding, the first chance I get to raid, sucks. Like I used to pug, like I pugged 10 out of 12 Nyalotha just because of the gear, and I'd walk away with like 4 or 5 pieces of gear a night, like, and that was super rewarding because it was a fun raid and you get some of the best gear in the game from doing it. And this doesn't feel that way with Castle, even though I think Castle's well designed. Like I love that there was a fight for healers. That was a consideration they made.
The biggest gripe I think most people have with Castle is 5 of the 10 fights have very long intermission periods where you're doing nothing. The vast majority of the fights have mechanics that rely on 2 people interacting perfectly together, and if they don't, it's a cascading raid fight. And like one of the biggest gripes in raiding, and this goes back throughout every raid, is anytime there's a raid or an ability that's a single person responsibility that can raid wipe everything, it's frustrating. And I get why it's there, but like from a community standpoint, like that one person to ruin 10 minutes over and over and over again for 20 people shouldn't be the case.
But the raid is balanced around heroic. It's not balanced around mythic. Like that's not the point of the raid. Mythic is theoretically looked at by Blizzard as a whole new level of difficulty. You didn't think it was challenging enough, or you want to push yourself, then here's mythic raiding. So if you want what you're talking about, you can get it. You don't get the rewards for it, but you can go get that. It, like you said, Ayla and them mess up Sludge or Generals and Sludge every week, and we one-shot Sludge and Generals most weeks now. So if you want that, you can get it. Even if they mess up, we can clear it with 15 people alive. Like, but with Mythic, I liked Hunger because I mean, yeah, it was the same 4 or 5 people that kept dying early on, but you just can't like carry those guys through, and nor should you feel like you have to.
The difference for me is I like hungering as well. The difference for me is I don't want to be playing a perfect game. I don't want my perfect performance. I'll use perfect pretty loosely, but you know what I mean. Like I'm doing good damage and I'm not fucking up mechanics. I don't want that to be destroyed because somebody else can't do the fight. Like, and that's what keeps happening to me. And I fucking.
But if you do that, if you go play 2v2 and you play perfectly, you can carry somebody to like 2100. But you're talking about 20-man content, right? Why are you playing 20-man content if you don't want someone else's fuck-ups to reflect negatively on the outcome?
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not one person fucking up preventing us from killing a boss. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, for example, being chained to somebody on Sledge Fist that doesn't have a fucking sweet idea where to stand, and they kill me because they're fucking stupid. Like, that's what I don't like. At a smaller scale, I'm just talking like 2 people being paired on stuff.
Kind of understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I also think that that's the nature of a raid. Like, the point of a raid is that you're trying to get 20 people on the same page, and all their performances aren't going to be exactly the same level of effectiveness, but close enough to where if one of them is underperforming, the rest of the people shouldn't be able to carry that person to the promised land. So my point is, I think that's what you sign up for when you mythic grade. You know, if you want that to matter less, I don't think there's a lot of WoW content where it will.
I just don't want to be nuked on fights from somebody else.
Play with better people, you know? I mean,
No,
I guess that's the answer.
That is the answer, yeah, you're right.
That's
But
why I
it just
love
feels
Mythic
bad
Plus,
when-
man. Like, you can't, I mean, obviously for 15s, sure, you can probably carry someone, but like, I used to do 24s, 25s. Everybody has to be on their shit, and there were many times where I felt like shit because it was legit just me. It was just my fault as the healer. I stepped right, should have stepped left, and now the run's over. And clearly the people that I'm playing with were not happy with me. But man, when we timed it, I mean, it just, that's what you play for. It felt like $1 million. That's what high-end content's about, you know? If I wanted to feel good, I'd go do a 10 or something, you know?
Yeah, I think you're both partially right, and I think it just comes down to what is the guild willing to do to make sure that we have a better chance at that feel-good moment. And
True.
less likely
I do
chance
think
at
that's
the-
yeah, I totally agree. That's an area that we can have a vast improvement on.
You know, like personally, like I get it, Strav wants to play a Frost Mage, but like if you look at it from a calculated risk, how do I alleviate risk to ensure that we find ourselves in the chance to be the most successful possible?
Yeah. Yeah, completely agree. I get it that a lot of people don't want to spend, I mean, 6 hours doing 10, 14s. But 2 hours, 3 hours doing 4? Is that so much to ask? Then you have 3 226 options, and your itemization vastly helps the guild. I mean, the difference between 212 and 221, like Krill and I are talking, is huge. Even from a healer's perspective, I don't know what the other healers have, but Resto Druid shouldn't be topping Sun King. I'm glad I did. It was fun, but it shouldn't be that way. Resto Druid is like, they turn their nose up at that. It's not a good spec for raid. So I think that you have a very good case to be made for a requirement to do your part when it comes to, like, we only raid 2 nights, you know. So what are all the other nights being done with? Nothing. Like nothing's being done those nights. That sucks. Shouldn't be that way.
The problem is, with this guild specifically, the problem is that it's just been allowed and accepted. They built a roster off that being allowed and accepted. So to change it now, it wouldn't work. It would just, I mean, it just wouldn't work. Because, well, unless you dumped people and, like, recruited and replaced
You have to
them.
change with the times, though. Ghost made a really good point. I mean, there's
I don't-
guilds
I-
that are falling apart in this tier, and if you break it down, the reason is because it's a tough tier. So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from Blizzard's standpoint, it truly was a recipe for disaster, for
success.
Yeah, I mean, for the high-end guilds or guilds that have been pushing Mythic for a long time, you know, well, and what's scary and what really sucks, and I think what you'll see as a secondary and tertiary effect to all of this is who writes all of the guides, who maintains all of the WoW pages, the people that love it, that are into it, and who are those people? Those are people that push Mythic content. But when you take Mythic content and you remove the reward, make it harder, and make it where more single individuals can punish an entire team for not performing, like, you're gonna lose all these high-end content creators. Like, prime example is Preach. Preach has been at the forefront of theory crafting and World of Warcraft reviews and, like, content creation. And he's done. And, like, if you go watch his video, one of the biggest reasons he was done is he's like, do you know what Mythic raiders do when we get CE? We go back and we farm to have the best loot possible for the next raid. No one on our 20-man roster, well, technically 27, wants to go back into Nyalotha to farm, or back into Nathria to farm. And, like, so if you watch Max from Limit, you watch his stream, like, when Preach said that, Max was like, yeah, no question about it. Like, we, to this day, still struggle re-clearing every week Sledgefists, Generals. Like, he's like, Sire's a joke, but those two, Sledgefists and Generals, still to this day, we struggle as a world first guild re-clearing those. That shouldn't be the case.
yeah, but didn't they just do I mean, a big part of them going back and comfortably clearing it is a balance patch, right?
Well, and that, I mean, that can be some of it, yes. And we've had those already. I
Yeah.
mean, Generals has nerfed almost every other week since World First has been out.
Yeah, it was broken though.
Well,
And
it still is.
I like wholeheartedly agree with it. Like, don't think that I'm disagreeing with you guys because I'm not. I 100% agree with you. My perspective of it though is that the guild that, like, very specifically the guild that we are in right now, precedent has already been set that you don't have to do that stuff. We've built